Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making some easy, delicious banana bread. So let's get started. First off, set your oven to 350 and take a look at your bananas. They should be spotted and dark and really fragrant. If they're on the yellower side with some green, you're gonna wanna bake these to make them perfectly ripe for this recipe. Pop them onto a baking tray, 350 for about 10 minutes until they're blackened, then wait for them to cool and you're good to go. These bananas look great, so I will be using them just as is. In a medium bowl, we're gonna get our dry ingredients together, starting with 1 3/4 cups or 210 grams of all-purpose flour. Really, the only secret to this recipe is using the right amount of flour. If you add too much, it's gonna be dry and bready. If you don't add enough, it'll be like too moist and dense from the bananas. So use a scale, and if you're using a scoop, go ahead and fluff your flour up, sprinkle it into your measuring cup, and level it off. That way, it won't be overpacked. Perfect. To puff things up, a teaspoon of baking soda, and a teaspoon of salt for contrast. The right amount of salt in any dessert recipe is so important. It really helps you taste what the ingredients are and not just have duller, flatter sweet notes. 1 teaspoon. You can use any warming spices you love. Today, I'm sticking with half a teaspoon of cinnamon, but you could add pumpkin pie spice, some cardamom, allspice, nutmeg, ginger, really it's the works. We're gonna give this a whisk. Our scale's done. Just mix it up so it's nice and combined. You really wanna distribute everything nice and evenly. You can whisk and mix as much as you want right now, like forever and ever and ever. But once you're adding the dry to the wet, you can only mix it until it is just combined. That'll give you a really nice, like perfect crumb. If you overmix your batter, it'll be gummy and dense and just not pleasant. Set that aside, and now we're gonna get our wet ingredients together. So for this recipe, you'll be using 3 very ripe bananas. This is peeling up. The riper your bananas are, the more flavor they're gonna have. And while they might be unpleasant for eating bananas, the ones that are like almost rotten, like, oh, I wanna throw these away, those are perfect for banana bread. And that's really one of the reasons that this recipe came to be. People had extra bananas hanging out, but in the 1920s and 30s, there was a depression, so people had to use everything at hand. And this recipe became much more popular as a way of just using every scrap of food that you could. Give these a mash. I personally like having little chunks of banana here and there, but if you don't enjoy that texture, just mash, mash, mash until it's basically a banana smoothie. By the way, these are medium-sized bananas. If you have giant bananas or those little tiny ones, you'll want about 430 grams of banana. So you can get your scale out and measure it up. This recipe is really forgiving though, so you could have a little bit more or a little bit less banana and it'll still be delicious with a lovely texture. So at this point, you'll want half a cup of room temperature butter. That's 113 grams, and you can grab a big bowl and a hand mixer or drag your stand mixer out. By the way, your butter should be nice and soft so a finger can just like kind of plow through it really easily. The butter is nice and bendy and it'll cream really well. If it's a cold day and your butter's too hard, just microwave it at half power in 10-second bursts. Into the bowl of my stand mixer fitted with a paddle attachment, I'm adding that half cup of room temperature butter. If you have any questions about how room temperature it is, just give it a quick cream. This is perfect, so it doesn't even need that. To sweeten things up and soften the batter, I want 3/4 of a cup of sugar. You could use light brown, dark brown, or even granulated. I'm using light brown today. It gives you a really lovely caramel flavor. That's 165 grams if you're using a scale. Otherwise, just pack your measuring cup really well. Sprinkle that in, and I like to crumble it into the bowl just because there could be some big lumps that are hanging around. Like, that might be hard for your mixer to mix in. Just make sure you clean your countertop if anything spills. No one has to know, unless you're filming a YouTube video. We're gonna mix this up for 3 minutes on high until it is light and fluffy. You can scrape the bowl down as needed, so if you're seeing some compacted butter at the bottom, just grab your spatula and scrape it down. Scrape, scrape, scrape. After about 3 minutes, you're gonna wanna crack 2 large room temperature eggs in, and always a good practice to crack them into a small bowl so you can make sure there's no shells. That's not the texture we want. You are definitely gonna wanna scrape your bowl down in between each of these eggs and after. Yeah, this looks ridiculous because it's this egg soup on top and butter and sugar on the bottom. If you're using a hand mixer, you can just rake the mixer along the bowl and basically scrapes it down. And if you notice that your mixer isn't really mixing properly, you might need to adjust the height of the mixer, which is just a flathead screwdriver right there. Just tinker with it until it's the perfect distance. Back to mixing. Egg number 2. 1 more scrape down. 1 teaspoon of vanilla for a lovely hint of flavor. And by the way, if you like my videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button. There's 2 new recipes every single week. This looks great. It's time to add our mashed bananas in. Just plop those in. So today I have a request for some plain banana bread, but if you want to spice things up a little bit with additions, you could add up to a cup of chopped walnuts or pecans. You could add half a cup of chocolate chips or chopped chocolate, and even some dried fruit will be a nice addition to this. So make the recipe your own, use what you have on hand. But make sure you toast the nuts if you're going to use them because that really amplifies the flavor. Mix your banana in. All right, and our last step is just to fold the dry ingredients in. So plop those in, and you're gonna mix on low until it is almost combined, and then finish it off by hand. This is the crucial step where if you overmix, like I said earlier, you'll have a gummy, denser batter because you're activating the gluten in the flour. So it's the only part you have to be careful of for this foolproof recipe. Flour goes in. And now mix on low until it's almost combined. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you look inside the bowl, it looks a little crazy right now. Like there's definitely tons of streaks of flour, but that's okay because we'll finish it off with our spatula. Just like when you make whipped cream, it's always a good idea to finish a batter off by hand so things don't get overmixed. You have ultimate control. Just use your spatula to scrape the bowl down and fold it in. You'll notice there is much less flour at the bottom of your bowl. Mix until the flour just disappears, and then you're ready to plop this into your prepared pan. You can grab a 9x5 or 1 pound loaf pan, give it a spray, and just for added ease, I have a little parchment paper cradle. This just lets you lift out your banana bread, and it also keeps the edges from browning as much. At least the edges in the paper. Transfer your batter to your prepared pan, and then we're just going to give it a smooth. Smooth the top out so it bakes nice and evenly. My banana bread is ready to go into the oven 350 for 50 to 60 minutes or until a skewer inserted in the center comes out clean. If you want, you could add a little sprinkle of sugar on top for some added sweetness and sparkle. In you go. Your banana bread will be good for 3 days in an airtight container at room temperature or 5 days in the fridge. And conversely, you could also freeze this for up to 3 months. Just thaw it out before enjoying. Allow your banana bread to cool, and then you're going to remove it. Give your banana bread a slice, and just like that, it's ready to enjoy. So soft. So moist and soft on the inside, and it's perfectly sweet with tons of banana flavor. I hope you get a chance to make this delicious recipe, and if you like my videos, hit that subscribe button and check out my banana playlist.